Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, a nurse who complained about sharing a changing room with a transgender doctor is cleared of gross misconduct after an NHS disciplinary hearing. The Orange Order says their concerns about violence are being ignored by the Scottish Government. As the Guga hunt on Lewis resumes this year, we'll hear all about catching and eating gannets. Also tonight, we'll have all the sport too with Paul. What have you got for us tonight, Paul?
It's the eve of the big one. Golf's Open Championship tees off tomorrow morning. We'll assess the runners and riders at Portrush.
Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. A nurse who complained about sharing a changing room with a transgender woman at Kirkcaldy's Victoria Hospital has been cleared of gross misconduct by an internal investigation done by NHS Fife. Sandy Peggy was suspended from her role with the NHS, where she had been working for more than 30 years, after Dr Beth Upton informed colleagues of the exchange. It was logged as a hate incident on the Health Board's risk management system. It came on the eve of an employment tribunal, which restarted this morning after a 5-month break in which Ms Peggy has claimed her treatment was unlawful. Louise Kawi has the details.
Nurse Sandy Peggy returns to the employment tribunal that's generated headlines far and wide. Ms Peggy was suspended from her role last year after she objected to Dr Beth Upton, who is a transgender woman, using female facilities at Victoria Hospital in Kirkcaldy. This morning it emerged that an internal hearing by NHS Fife found there was insufficient evidence to support a finding of misconduct against Ms Peggy.
This follows a disciplinary hearing on the 25th of June, which considered 4 gross misconduct allegations, 2 relating to patient care failures, 1 of misgendering Dr Upton and 1 relating to her encounter with Dr Upton in the female-only workplace changing room on Christmas Eve 2023. Sandy is relieved and delighted that this 18-month-long internal process has concluded and cleared her of all allegations. Thank you.
In response, NHS Fife said, "We are satisfied that the process has been appropriately followed and is now concluded. We remain committed to fostering a respectful, inclusive and safe working environment for all of our staff and patients." Ms Peggy claims her treatment was unlawful under the 2010 Equality Act and brought a case against the Health Board and Dr Upton. The tribunal today heard from Isla Boomba, NHS Fife's Equality and Human Rights Lead Officer, who advised senior staff.
Ms Boomba said that NHS Fife didn't have a policy with regards to trans staff, that she'd leaned on policies being adopted by other Scottish health boards and was awaiting a national NHS policy called Once for Scotland. Ms Peggy's lawyer Naomi Cunningham put it to Ms Boomba that her advice was inclusive of trans people but not women who wouldn't want to share changing facilities with them. She accused Ms Boomba and NHS Fife of validating trans staff but sacrificing the privacy, dignity and safety of women in the process, something Ms Boomba denied. Ms Boomba said no women had raised concerns with her over trans staff sharing the changing facilities.
NHS Fife previously described Ms Peggy's case as unnecessary and vexatious, while Dr Upton has accused the nurse of bullying and harassment. The Health Board has already rung up a £220,000 legal bill defending itself. At the time of the incidents, NHS guidance stated that trans men and women could use the changing rooms that aligned with their gender identity. Since the tribunal last sat, the UK Supreme Court has ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex. The Scottish Government has said that new sex-based rights guidance is being developed. The proceedings, which have proved both controversial and costly, continue tomorrow. Louise Kawi, reporting Scotland, Dundee.
A man who tried to kill 3 people by crashing a car he was travelling in has been jailed for 7 years. Stephen Phillipson grabbed the steering wheel and pulled the handbrake of the car. He was found guilty of the attempted murder of 2 10-year-old children and the female driver. Ailey Davis reports now from Inverness High Court.
Stephen Phillipson's actions resulted in the car veering off the road and rolling over and injuring all those involved. It happened on the A941 close to the village of Fogwat near Elgin in June 2023. Today at the High Court in Inverness, Judge Olga Pasportnikov described Phillipson's offences as despicable and said it must have had a terrifying effect on those involved. She said that he could have killed everyone involved in the accident that day, which must have had a significant impact on his victims. At an earlier trial, he was found guilty of several charges, including assaulting and the attempted murder of the woman and 2 children under 10 to their injury and to the danger of their lives. He was given an extended sentence of 9 years and 1 month, of which 7 years and 1 month will be spent in jail, while the remainder will be under supervised release. Ailey Davis reporting Scotland, Inverness.
Both the Scottish and UK governments have been working to save jobs at the bus manufacturer Alexander Dennis. The company said last month it was planning to close its operations in Falkirk and Larbert with the loss of 400 jobs and centralise operations in Scarborough. I asked our news correspondent Jamie McIver how much time was left to save the jobs.
Time is running out, Laura. There's just about a month left. Basically, the company's consultation on the planned job losses in Falkirk and Larbert runs until August the 15th. Any solution is likely to be a complicated one. It's likely to involve the company, the Scottish Government, the UK Government and the 2 principal unions at the site. Now, the Scottish Government gave an update today on how it sees the fight to save the jobs going. In a letter to Holyrood's Economy and Fair Work Committee, the Finance Secretary Shona Robison described the Scottish Government's efforts. She said they were liaising with bus companies and local authorities to try to establish the demand for double-decker buses in Scotland. Work, she said, was also being carried out in other parts of the UK. And she also said that ministers have been engaged in what was described as a sustained dialogue with the company. And she also did say it was encouraging that the firm would consider chassis manufacturing in Scotland going forward too.
And Jamie, Alexander Dennis came up at Prime Minister's questions today.
Indeed, Laura, it was raised by the local MP Brian Leechman. Now, Sir Keir Starmer told the Commons that the UK government was working with English mayors to put in orders for zero-emissions buses in a bid to help save the business. And the local transport minister is holding an urgent meeting with the bus manufacturing expert panel. Now, it's worth me making the point that Alexander Dennis has said before that new orders alone won't be enough to save the operations in Falkirk and Larbert. The company will need to be convinced there's enough of a flow of work going forward to justify the operation in Scarborough and the Scottish operation too.
Jamie, thank you for the update. Well, as Jamie mentioned, the Labour MP for Alloa and Grangemouth, Brian Leechman, has had the whip suspended following multiple rebellions against Keir Starmer's policies. Here's what he had to say.
When I was elected last July to come down here, I was elected to be the voice in Parliament for the communities across Alloa and Grangemouth. And what I've tried to do since coming down here is fight for big constituency issues such as Alexander Dennis today. I had a Prime Minister's question on that, but also for the Grangemouth refinery and also a whole raft of other personal constituent issues as well that I've raised down here in Parliament. I don't regret being the voice for people at all.
Well, have you heard anything in this evening's programme or maybe have a story to share a similar experience? We always love to hear from you, and our email address is there for you now on the screen, news7@bbc.co.uk. And thank you so much for joining us on tonight's News at 7. More to come in the programme, including the Guga Hunt is back on this year. Is it an island tradition worth preserving or a cruel and outdated practice?
We reached 24 degrees in Aberdeenshire today, but join me later to find out if that warmth is sticking with us for the rest of the week. But there is some heavy rain on the way for the weekend too.
Time to get a roundup now of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. And a part of Fort George in the Murray Firth is in danger of collapsing due to a sinkhole. The fort is more than 250 years old and serves as an army base and tourist attraction. Dumfries and Galloway councils apologised for a data breach which leaked email addresses from a customer survey in error. They say no sensitive personal information was shared. And plans to redevelop the site of the O2 ABC venue in Glasgow's Sauchiehall Street have been called in by the Scottish Government. The ABC was damaged in the Glasgow School of Art fire in 2018. And for more information on all of these stories, you can scan the QR code there for you on the screen now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there's more for you, including a call from the new boss of Ferguson Marine for a new Calmac ferry order to be directly awarded to the state-owned shipyard to secure its survival. Now, the Orange Lodge of Scotland has claimed a suspected airgun attack on its members has been met with silence from the Scottish Government. Police have launched an investigation after several marchers were hit by pellets during a procession through Glasgow city centre earlier this month. John Swinney has described acts of violence against the Orange Order as completely and utterly unacceptable. David Wallace-Lockhart reports.
It was at this Orange March in Glasgow earlier this month that a number of marchers were hit with suspected air weapon pellets. A police investigation is ongoing. The Orange Lodge of Scotland believes that threats to their members aren't taken seriously enough. They say their halls have been vandalised and that female members have been abused. This morning, they outlined their concerns to civil servants. But it's the First Minister they want to meet with, and they're unhappy with the response they've received so far.
The silence from the First Minister itself, it almost gives a green light to attack our parades. And it's very concerning as a law-abiding citizens and as a Christian organisation that, we're not getting any ministers coming out to condemn these attacks on our parades.
That's a really serious accusation. You feel that strongly that the First Minister not meeting with you almost gives, in your words, a green light to those sort of attacks?
Absolutely. I've now sent several letters, as I said, to the First Minister asking for a meeting, and still nothing to date.
The Scottish Government say that ministers did condemn reports of an attack, and today the First Minister addressed the Orange Order's concerns.
There's been incidents recently where members of the Orange Order have been subjected to acts of violence. These are completely and utterly unacceptable. The police are investigating these particular issues and they should be properly and fully investigated. And we will of course have dialogue with the Orange Order and the Community Safety Minister will take that forward.
So the Orange Order will get to meet with a government minister, but the organisation is still demanding it's the First Minister who gets round the table with them. David Wallace-Lockhart, reporting Scotland.
Now, if you've been watching this week, you'll know that the Island Games is being held in Orkney. It's the Olympic-style competition where athletes from 24 island communities from around the world come together to compete. Well, our reporter Chris McLennan joins us now live from the athletics track in Kirkwall. Chris, what's going on there tonight?
Well, Laura, we've had another day of glorious sunshine up here in Orkney. We had a minor blip yesterday, some rain coming in there, but not even that could dampen the atmosphere. Now, behind me already tonight, we've had the women's 200 metres, and local Orkney woman, Taylor Patterson, she's doubled her tally for the Games. She took gold in that, equalling a record that stood for 40 years. Now, that was Hilary Rendell who won the gold double there for Orkney back in the very first Island Games in the Isle of Man. Now, what's quite nice is that tonight we will actually have Hilary presenting Taylor her medal just in a short time behind me here on the podium. But also tonight, some success for the Western Isles in the pool. Cara Hanlon, she also took gold in the women's 100-metre breaststroke, and that comes just a day after she became the Western Isles' most decorated Islands Games athlete ever. Lots of excitement here building tonight, and we've got more finals. The women's 5,000 metres is currently underway, and lots of people have turned out to cheer on here tonight.
Sark is a very small island between Jersey and Guernsey, about 25 miles west of France. It's a double diamond shaped. We need ferries to get us to Guernsey or Jersey. Guernsey's our main port.
Really a pretty small place. How do you manage to do archery there?
With difficulty.
Just in my back garden, because fortunately we've got 30-metre lawn, and so it does mean when it's cold we can go back in and warm up on the Arga. But otherwise we're up and down the lawn and it's not enough, but it's the best we can do, and we'll carry on doing it.
Yes, too right. I'm going to say it's, in theory, you're supposed to have double the distance behind the distance you're shooting as safety. So if we were to be doing 90 metres for my longest range, it's a 180 metre field, and we haven't got that many of those.
So how's the archery been going?
It's been fantastic to be here. It's been fantastic to be in Orkney. We've met so many friends over the years, and they're all here. So archery has longevity in it, in the sense of you don't have to be a speed freak like in the athletics. So once you can keep shooting, you can keep going. Thankfully, we haven't had to compete to get into a seeding to get to be the best to turn up or compete. So yeah, we are here and we're loving it.
And we've done the very best we can, given lack of practice and life events.
And that was my colleague David Elday there speaking to the athletes from Sark. Now, they're the smallest competitors here at the Games. They've brought just 2 athletes, and both Kevin Adams and Jane Norwich, they were competing behind us here in the archery field, which is the other side of the athletics there. Lots more to come. Tomorrow we've got a real crunch football match. We've got a local rivalry, Orkney take on Shetland, and I'm sure we'll keep you right up to date with how that one goes. But Laura, we've still got lots of competition to come before things conclude here on Friday afternoon, and we bring the curtain down on what's been a glorious week of weather and a glorious week of sporting activity here in Orkney.
Chris, really good to hear from you trackside this evening. Thank you so much. And still to come here on News at 7, we have the weather with Christopher and the return of the Guga hunt. First though, time to get the sport here with Paul.
Thank you, Laura. Hello there. The eyes of the golfing world are on Northern Ireland as the 153rd Open Championship gets underway tomorrow at Royal Portrush, returning to the iconic links for the first time since 2019. Some of golf's biggest names are in the field, including defending champion Xander Schauffele and Rory McIlroy, who's looking to lift the claret jug on home soil. But there's plenty of Scottish interest too. Let's take a look at their tee times. Robert McIntyre's Scottish Open title defence didn't go to plan, but he'll be hoping to bounce back when he tees off at 2:48 with Justin Rose and Bryson DeChambeau. And it's an Open debut for Daniel Young and amateurs Cameron Adam and Conor Graham. Teenager Graham is the first Scot on the tee at 11:47. Well, Young, who secured his place by coming through a tight qualifier at Dundonald Links, spoke to us about his goals for the week ahead.
I'm just going to go out there, enjoy it and try and keep doing, I think I said to Dundonald, just keep doing what I've been doing for sort of the last month or so, which has been working. So, yeah, expectation, if that's good enough to play 4 days, if that's good enough to be in the top 10 or even contention or whatever, you know, we'll just take the result, the outcome will be what it'll be, but we'll just go and try and sort of play the golf I've been playing and come up with we've got a pretty good game plan I think at the minute, so if we can just execute that to the best of my ability, and then yeah, you never know where that'll get me.
You never know indeed. Well, with excitement building ahead of the championship, I spoke to our reporter Brian McLaughlin from Portrush to get a sense of the mood ahead of the first round.
The town of Portrush is absolutely electric. The atmosphere when I arrived here on Monday afternoon was what you would expect from a major sporting event, and that's exactly what this is this week. We're expecting just under 300,000 visitors to be attending these links between now and close of play on Sunday. There's been a glorious day today weather-wise. However, just a word of warning, tomorrow through to Sunday, I'm afraid it looks like we're going to have some rain and possibly some thunder at some point tomorrow. But everyone's here in high spirits. I have to say, Portrush are really putting on a magnificent show, and these Dunluce links here at Royal Portrush, they are really going to be a test for the world's finest over the next 4 days.
Well, those wet conditions should be something that the Scots in the field are used to, Brian. 4 of them led by the world number 14, Robert McIntyre. How would you assess his chances and those of his compatriots?
Well, when Bob left the Renaissance Club on Sunday night, you'd have thought that they'd lost a fiver and found a shilling. He was such a grumpy guy, but when we spoke to him here on Tuesday morning, he had rekindled his excitement again about being back here at a place where he did finish in a tie for 6th place 6 years ago. So he loves links golf. He says this is his best opportunity of winning an Open Championship. He says this is the best linked course on the planet. So he thinks this is the best place for him to try and win a golfing major. And, well, who knows? He has evidence here of doing really well 6 years ago. And it's fingers crossed that he can do it again. He's a different player now. He's certainly more in tune with what's going to be required to be a winning golfer at a major. He finished second in the US Open, of course, just a matter of weeks ago. So he is an elite golfer now in the world of golf. And fingers that Bob can get over the line come Sunday night and become the first Scottish winner of the Claret Jug since Paul Laurie at Carnoustie back in 1999. Way too long, Paul.
Well, that would be quite something, Brian. And just finally, so much at stake this week. It's not just the Claret Jug, it's not just huge prize money cheques, but the Ryder Cup's on the horizon as well.
Absolutely, yeah. The Ryder Cup just a matter of weeks away now. And of course, both the European teams and the American teams are angling, the players are angling for points anyway to try and force their way into contention. For the Europeans then, Rory McIlroy is the only player so far confirmed as being part of Luke Donald's team. Bob McIntyre, as things stand, is in the top 6, and fingers crossed he can get enough points this week anyway, to making sure of his place at Bethpage Black come September.
I think Brian's just as excited as the 4 Scots in the field. Rugby, and Sione Tuipulotu, Finn Russell and Hugh Jones are set to form an all-Scottish midfield for the British and Irish Lions in their opening test against Australia on Saturday. If confirmed, it will be the first time since 1993 that a single nation has provided the entire 10, 12 and 13 axis in a Lions test. The trio did play together briefly, spending 6 minutes on the field during the Lions' win over Western Force, but this would mark their first Lions start as a midfield unit. Head coach Andy Farrell will reveal his full matchday squad tomorrow. There's more on all these stories on the BBC Sport Scotland website, and there will be a link there shortly for live radio commentary of tonight's League Cup fixture at Rugby Park as Livingston face Kilmarnock. Hard to believe the football season's up and running already. It's been up and going for a week or so.
So soon, isn't it? It's
not much of a summer break now.
Thank you so much, Paul. Cheers. Now, as we told you earlier, the boss of Ferguson's in Port Glasgow is calling for the contract to build another Calmac ferry to be awarded directly to the shipyard. The Scottish Government's earmarked cash to replace the MV Lord of the Isles, which serves South Uist and the Western Isles, within the next 3 years. Speaking at Westminster Scottish Affairs Committee, Ferguson's Chief Executive Graham Thompson told MPs failure to secure the contract for the ferry would make the future of the yard very difficult and challenging.
We've lobbied for a direct award, and if not, then social value and local content is where we'd like to see that included in the contracts. And I think between that and how we would price it now in anticipation of the investment we're going to make in the yard, we will be on a level playing field.
Now, you may or may not have heard of the tradition of the Guga hunt, where young gannets are killed for their meat. It dates back to the 15th century off the Isle of Lewis, but it's not happened for the last 3 years due to concerns around avian flu. Now, though, a new licence has been granted by Nature Scot, but the animal welfare campaign group One Kind has described the hunt as cruel. Donald Murray is the author of the book The Guga Hunters, and I managed to catch a quick word with him before he got the ferry to Stornoway earlier.
I think I have no objections to the return of the Guga hunt, because clearly if you're part of a rural society, you need to use the resources that are around you. And seabirds for generations were part of that, not just in Lewis, but in Uist, in Skye, in Shetland, for many, many centuries. They were an important part of life there. And I think we should never, ever sacrifice that kind of our means of surviving in rural constituencies and rural areas.
Now, the critics of this practice, though, say that it's outdated now, that it's not needed for that reason, and that it's cruel. How would you respond to that?
Well, I find that astonishing that urban people make criticisms like that. An awful lot of them, have been for generations involved in the creation of animals, and are even to this present day. So I always find it astonishing that urbanites will sometimes, adopt a kind of very moral stance when it comes to rural areas, which are different. And rural areas are having difficulty surviving, particularly in the way they used to do, because in a sense, we're not making use of our resources that are around us in the way that they did for generations past.
So is there still then a modern day desire to do this, to hunt and eat the guga?
I think so. I mean, nowadays, however, I would cook it outside. When I was young, we used to cook it on the stove in the kitchen. But nowadays, I think I have cooked it occasionally, and my wife always says, "You better cook that outside." And we tend to cook it for longer too than we used to do, because clearly we don't have the same salty. We don't have the same flavour for salt that they had a few generations ago.
Just describe for those who've never had it, Donald, what does it taste like?
Well, I always think it tastes like a very, very salty form of chicken. And that would be my way of describing it.
OK, well, Donald, great to talk to you. I know you've got a ferry to Stornoway to catch, so we'll let you go and catch it. Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Donald.
OK, take care.
And there's more about the guga hunt and descriptions of what it actually tastes like on the BBC News Scotland website. Let's get some weather now. Chris is here. It continues, Chris.
It does, but I don't think I like the sound of salted chicken.
No, I know it's kind of putting me off my tea a wee bit, quite frankly.
Let's stick to the weather, shall we? Some lovely sunshine for some today, certainly across parts of the Western Isles and also through parts of central and northeast Scotland. Great pictures from our weather watchers. Lovely one there from Stirlingshire. And whilst it was rather cloudy through west central Scotland, there were some rather nice spells of sunshine elsewhere, and we reached up to 24 degrees in Aberdeenshire today. But what's coming up over the next few days? Let's take a look, because you can see we've got low pressure in charge, keeping things a little bit unsettled with a few showers through the next couple of days. But really, it's the weekend that we start to see a decline to something altogether wetter, with these weather fronts moving up from the south, bringing some heavy downpours. Before we get there, though, first thing tomorrow, it's a largely dry and bright start. But you can see the cloud already with us through parts of Ayrshire, in towards Galloway, through parts of Argyll as well. But you can see further north and east, it's a bright sunny morning. Low cloud, though, will be extensive through Fair Isle and Shetland, perhaps in towards parts of Orkney as well. That should lift through the day. Elsewhere, you can see it's dry, and that cloud will continue to work its way northwards, with sunshine holding on across the far north and northeast. Temperatures into the low 20s, heavy showers on the west coast. That takes us to Friday. We've got a cold front working its way eastwards. And whilst it will be a bit of a cloudy start with some showery outbreaks of rain, actually Friday's an improving picture. Some sunshine for many as we head through towards the afternoon, but still the chance of 1 or 2 showers dotted about. Temperatures once again into the low 20s, maybe 24 degrees for Inverness. And then to the weekend, and you can see on Saturday we've got some really heavy rain working its way up from the south. That could be thundery at times. Best of the sunshine in the northwest. Temperatures down a notch, but still at low 20s, a bit of a humid feel. And on the extended outlook, that low pressure just swirling around overhead with its associated weather fronts, showers or longer spells of rain. So for the second half of the weekend, a similar sort of picture with outbreaks of rain, perhaps something a little bit drier towards the central belt and the south through the afternoon. Temperatures once again here in Scotland, 19 to 21 Celsius. Little change really for Monday with those weather fronts nearby. Showers or longer spells of rain once again, bit of sunshine in between. And you can see on the outlook it is an unsettled picture beyond the weekend. Temperatures though, not too bad. That's the forecast.
Thanks, Chris. Cheers. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7. Amy Irons will be here. Bye-bye.